Hello, I'm Andrea, principal within Plant Moran's automotive practice, and I lead our supplier relations analytics group. I'm pleased to provide you a recap of our 2021 Working Relations Index study, or the WRI. First, let me give you some background on the WRI. This is our 21st year for the study, and it is a unique survey judging the customer-supplier relationships between GM, Ford, SAA, Stellantis, Nissan, Toyota, and Honda, and their first tier or direct suppliers. For 2021, the results I'll talk about are based on 2,300 buying situations. Now, through this clip, I'll refer to FCA rather than Stellantis because the suppliers reported back on their working relationships before any significant integration activities took place between FCA and PSA. This chart shows a historic snapshot of how suppliers judge their OEM relationships. The big takeaway from this year's study is that the industry issues of 2020 truly tested the purchasing organizations. These issues, most of which were running simultaneously and into 2021 year, tested the capabilities and the capacities of the purchasing organizations. We see two major changes in this year's results. First, General Motors increased its WRI by 20 points. It was a real testament to their buyers as they stepped up communication with the suppliers. Suppliers also rated General Motors better this year on the variable the customer treated the supplier fairly. I think this puts the GM requests in context with all the other requests, costs, and risks that the suppliers were taking on through 2020. Second, Nissan broke away from its bottom position with a 21-point increase. Nissan's story is about alignment. It's alignment organizationally from Japan to North America to the purchasing organization. It's also a story of alignment across functions such as engineering and manufacturing. And this is being driven by purchasing's a clear role in the Nissan Next plan, which supports that alignment. Now, turbulent times depend on trust. There are crisis playbooks, but the industry never faced a year like 2020. Purchasing becomes far more about assuring supply chain viability, minimizing costs of production schedule volatility, and acting as a conduit to get the right information to the right decision makers. For our survey, we break commercial trust into three key elements: setting realistic expectations, fulfilling commitments, and sharing information. Year over year, FCA slipped on each one of these factors, but even Toyota is not perfect. They slipped on sharing information to get the job done. Now, GM and Nissan made big strides on these variables. This gives them a strong foundation to string together 2 years of improvement. And that is what will show if they are really institutionalizing these improvements. That's where the proof will be. As we look at the cause and effect of strong supplier relations, we use this Jim Collins inspired momentum flywheel. Suppliers provide some 3/4 of the value of today's vehicle. OEMs not leveraging their supplier value-added capability are missing out on product differentiation, operational flexibility, launch support, risk mitigation, and of course, competitive pricing. No customer is perfect year in and year out, and that's where momentum comes in. The WRI measures engagement, friction, assistance, mutual profit opportunity, and the core element of trust. Incremental improvement in any or all of these relationships builds that momentum to improve customer relationships. That's what keeps Toyota and Honda on top, and historically has kept Nissan and FCA at the bottom. However, we have seen major changes in the customer-supplier interface. It is possible, but it takes a concerted effort of alignment and consistency. Now, for this year, we're introducing a net promoter score. Now, this is not the consumer approach that asks, would you or would you not recommend a company? We look at the variables that drove the positive responses to the question, how well do you prefer this OEM customer? We found there were three main drivers, and each made up of several variables. But it comes down to, do you trust the customer? Do you believe you can make a long-term return on investment for the business? And do you believe there is a mutual opportunity to grow with the customer? Like the Net Promoter Score, the high scores on these attributes are the promoters, the low scores are the detractors. We subtract the share of detractors from the share of promoters to arrive at our scores. Now, we also weight each of these groups differently, so it truly reflects what the suppliers want in a long-term customer. Our research shows that the NPS scores rank OEMs in the exact same order as our WRI ratings. But think about the Net Promoter Score as about the future. Do you trust the customer to make investments in future EV plants? Do you believe the product cycle plan volumes can make you an adequate return on your investment? And if you allocate resources to this one customer, does that really maximize your future growth versus saddling up with another customer? Thank you for listening. These are just the highlights of the 2021 WRI study. Additional WRI information may be found on our website, plantemoran.com, or certainly feel free to email me your questions.